Have you ever wondered why, after 70, some people seem lighter and freer with each passing day, while others sigh with weariness every single day? It's not because of how much money they have, nor simply because of their health. It's because they are carrying invisible burdens, burdens no one else can see, but that slowly eat away at their happiness. Let me tell you this. After 70, life can be so much better if we know how to let go of 7 silent burdens. And the first one is regret over the past. I remember once meeting Robert, 75, at a community gathering. He often sat quietly in a corner, eyes staring into the distance, rarely joining conversations. When I asked him, he smiled sadly and said, "All my life, I've regretted just one thing, not keeping the woman I loved most. Every time I see another family, I think back to the past, and it haunts me endlessly." Robert lived more than 40 years reliving a memory that could never return. You see, regret never turns back time. It only steals the joy of the present. It's like carrying a backpack filled with useless stones, adding nothing, only weighing you down. If you are living with regrets, I want to remind you of this. Gently forgive yourself. No one lives a life without mistakes. But old age is not for punishing yourself. It is for finding peace again. Think about it. If today were your last day, would you want to spend it regretting or smiling? As I left that gathering, Robert whispered, "I wish I had realized this sooner." And I believe many of us are carrying the same kind of weight he bore. But you know what? Regret is not the only burden. There is something else, something that can drain us even more, and that is toxic relationships, the people who cause us more pain than joy. So if the first burden is regret over the past, then the second burden lies right here in the present, those toxic relationships. You see, old age is meant to be a time for peace, yet many end up living in tense conversations, dinners filled with silence, or worse, words that pierce the heart. I once spoke with Linda, 78, in a senior yoga class. She told me that whenever her son and daughter-in-law came to visit, instead of joy, she felt fear. In their eyes, she was always not doing enough, unwilling to change, and everything she said was dismissed. Linda said, "At this age, I don't need money. I just need a sincere, 'How are you?' But what I get instead is criticism." You see, a toxic relationship doesn't always mean violence or arguments. It can simply be the repeated lack of respect, the constant belittling, making someone feel small and meaningless. And the most dangerous part is that the older we get, the easier it is to accept it, telling ourselves, "It's fine, I'm old, what else can I ask for?" But in truth, this is the very time we must keep our hearts clean and light. If you find yourself in such a relationship, whether with friends, relatives, or even family, remember, you have every right to set boundaries. Not out of hatred, but to protect your peace. Old age should never be a sentence of enduring others. It should be a reward, a time when you can choose who to be with and who to walk away from. And when we bravely cut off toxic relationships, life feels lighter. But you know what? There is still another burden, one that doesn't come from others, but from within our own hearts. Guilt and the mistakes we've made. After letting go of toxic relationships, another silent burden many older adults still carry is guilt over past mistakes. There are things we wish we could redo, people we wish we had treated better, but time never rewinds. I remember James, 81, a former engineer I met in a library. He often sat for hours just reading, but when I started a conversation, I discovered the books were only an excuse to escape his memories. He whispered, "All my life, I buried myself in work and neglected my wife and kids. When my wife passed, I realized I had never taken her on the trip she had always dreamed of. I still feel guilty to this day." Those words left me silent, because guilt is not just a memory. It's like a shadow that follows us for life. And the older we get, the clearer that shadow becomes, causing many to live in torment instead of peace. But remember, guilt cannot change the past. It only robs the present. Forgiving yourself is the greatest gift old age can give. If you are living with this burden, try writing a letter to yourself or to the person you feel guilty toward, even if they are no longer here. Simply putting it into words can make you feel lighter. Think of it as closing one chapter and opening another. Because old age is not meant for chewing on pain, but for rediscovering joy and peace in the days you have left. And as we slowly learn to forgive ourselves, we discover yet another burden, just as frightening, the fear of the future, when we do not know what tomorrow may bring. After forgiving ourselves and closing old mistakes, there remains a quiet burden that many people after 70 carry. Fear of the future. Fear that one day we'll fall ill, unable to care for ourselves. Fear of becoming a burden on our children. And worst of all, fear of not knowing what tomorrow holds. I remember Patricia, 76, who regularly joined a meditation group at her local church. She told me, "I'm not afraid of dying, but I am afraid of how I might go. I fear being bedridden. I fear the worried eyes of my children and grandchildren. Just thinking about it has cost me many sleepless nights." These fears are real. Many of us carry them quietly, but never dare to speak them. And yet, the more we hide them, the bigger they grow, stealing away the peace of our present. The truth is, no one can predict the future, but we can prepare. We can make healthcare plans, leave clear instructions for our children, or simply sit down and share our worries. When we do, we realize the fear isn't as big because we've taken back some control. Old age becomes gentler when we dare to face our worries instead of avoiding them. And sometimes, fear of the future is not as crushing as another burden, the weight of comparison, when we look around and ask ourselves, why am I less fortunate than them? Beyond fear of the future, there is yet another burden that quietly steals joy from many elders. The habit of comparing ourselves to others. At 70 or 80, you might find yourself sitting at a family or community gathering, looking around and sighing. Why is he still strong enough to walk for an hour, while I get breathless after just a few steps? Or when you see a peer showing off travel photos from around the world, you wonder, why didn't I have those opportunities? I remember Charles, 79, who once owned a small shop. At community gatherings, he often stayed quiet while others talked about their success or financial comfort. One day, he confided, "I feel like a failure because I didn't leave much wealth for my children and grandchildren. When I see my friends with big houses and good pensions, I feel so small." But then a close friend told him, "Charles, you have 3 children who love you dearly. They visit you every week. You know, there are many wealthy people out there, but at night they sit alone. Which one is truly more valuable?" That sentence changed him, because comparison never ends. There will always be someone richer, healthier, happier, but also someone less fortunate than us. Only when we stop and learn to appreciate what we already have can we truly feel at peace. And from there, we see another burden just as silent, the clinging to material possessions, believing that things or money are what determine happiness in old age. But is that really true? Even after letting go of comparison, many still carry another heavy weight: attachment to material things. In later years, we often hold tightly to old belongings, items kept for decades, as if they are the very soul of our lives. But sometimes, they are what keep us from having space for lightness in our minds. I once met Linda, 84, who lived in a house overflowing with things. From the living room to the bedroom, every corner was crammed with books, newspapers, souvenirs, and old clothes. She said, "Each of these items is tied to a memory. I can't throw them away." But because of that, she lived in constant clutter, struggled to move around, and even tripped and fell a few times. When her daughter suggested decluttering, Linda burst into tears. "If I let go of them, I'm afraid I'll lose my memories too. The truth is, memories do not live in objects. They live in our hearts, in the stories we tell our children and grandchildren. Material things can be lost, but love and memories are the true legacy. When we dare to let go, the room becomes brighter, our steps lighter, and our hearts more open. And after all those burdens, from regret, toxic relationships, guilt, fear, comparison, and material attachment, there remains the quietest, most hidden burden of all: self-blame and the lack of self-love. This, more than anything else, steals away the peace of old age. Even after letting go of material things and feeling lighter, many people over 70 still silently carry an invisible weight: the lack of compassion for themselves and the habit of self-blame. This is one of the heaviest burdens, because it does not come from the outside, it comes from within the mind. I remember Henry, 81, who had once been a strict father. Now, with grown children, he often torments himself. I wasn't patient enough with them when they were little. I hurt them. Each time his children visited, instead of enjoying their presence, he sat in silence, letting old accusations echo inside his head. But one day, his son held his hand and said, "Dad, I never resented you. I only wish you would stop blaming yourself and live happily for the rest of your life." Tears rolled down Henry's cheeks, as if a heavy stone inside him had finally been lifted. The truth is, all of us have flaws and have made mistakes, but that doesn't mean we are undeserving of love, especially love from ourselves. Old age is not a time to put ourselves on trial, but a time to forgive ourselves, to live in peace, and to leave behind a legacy of kindness for our children and grandchildren. And when we learn to love and forgive ourselves, that is when all the other silent burdens begin to fall away. Old age suddenly feels lighter, brighter, and each day becomes truly meaningful. So, through this journey, we have revisited the 7 silent burdens that many people over 70 still cling to in their hearts: regret over the past, toxic relationships, guilt, fear of the future, comparison, attachment to material things, and finally, the lack of self-love. If you notice, all of these burdens share one thing in common: they live more in our hearts and minds than in the outside world. And that is why, only when we dare to let go from within, can we truly live lightly, peacefully, and find real joy in old age. Ask yourself today, of these 7 burdens, which one am I still carrying? And am I ready to set it down so I can live a more peaceful old age? If you feel connected to this, leave a comment with the number that matches the burden you want to let go of first. For example, comment 3 if it's guilt, or 7 if it's the habit of self-blame. I believe that when you share, you will realize you are not alone. Many others are walking the same journey with you. And don't forget, if this video has touched you, please hit like, subscribe, and click the little bell so you won't miss the next stories. This is the best way for you to both keep these values for yourself and spread peace to many others. Because the journey of letting go doesn't end here. In the next video, we will explore 8 silent things to let go of after 70 to live lighter and more peacefully. Trust me, these will be things many people never expect, but they can make a tremendous difference in the quality of life in old age. So come with me into that next video, because the very thing you most need to let go of may be waiting for you among those 8